All right, you guys, welcome back to another episode of the Dental Marketing Secrets Podcast. I am your host, Mark Thackeray, and today I am joined by Dr. Miles Beckett, who is a former doctor turned healthcare tech entrepreneur. He is also the founder and CEO of Flossy, which is an AI-driven platform to help increase dental practice efficiency. So we get into AI today in the show. We talk about two of the things that AI can help fix. One is broken marketing, and the other is a burned out staff. And it's a really good conversation to see also what's going on in the AI world as it pertains to the dental industry and where this might be headed. So without further ado, join me for this interview with Dr. Miles Beckett. All right, you guys, welcome back. I've got Dr. Miles Beckett with me on the show today. He is the co-founder and CEO of Flossy, which is an AI-driven platform for dental practice efficiency. He's also a former ER and plastic surgeon turned healthcare tech entrepreneur. And we're going to talk a little bit about that journey as well. But he's previously founded and sold multiple startups in the healthcare space and is passionate about bridging the gap between clinical excellence and operational innovation. Miles, welcome to the show.
Mark, thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I am. Like I said before we got started, I'm just eager to talk about. So our topic today is we're going to be talking about how AI and its role can help fix some broken marketing. It can help with a burnout staff. But before we do that, if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to hear your journey a little bit. Traditional doctor role and then now tech entrepreneur. So how did that happen?
Sure, yeah. I mean, as a kid growing up, I was always into technology. My first computer was a Apple IIc, which probably dates me a bit, but when you turned it on, it went directly into BASIC, so you could write little programs sort
Yeah.
of by default. And so I learned like super basic, rudimentary programming. I did a little bit of programming in high school and so I was always really into technology and really excited about the emergence of the internet, which kind of happened when I went to college. I got my
Yeah.
first email address in college and so, my parents wanted me to be a doctor. It seemed like a good thing to do.
Yeah.
And so I continued forward, went to medical school at UC San Diego. And then I was in a plastic surgery residency at Loma Linda. But kind of the whole way through, I was really not excited about being a doctor.
Yeah.
I didn't like clinical care. I didn't like being in the hospital. I like to say that for normal people, when they're in the hospital or their loved one is in the hospital, that's probably like the worst day of their life or like one of the
Yeah.
worst days of their
True.
lives. And for me, as the doctor, that was every day. Every day is dealing with somebody's worst day. And I think
Yeah.
for some people that's fine, but for my personality, I'm pretty empathetic. Like it was
Right.
hard. And at the same time, I just loved technology. I was obsessed with the internet. And so, yeah, it was not like a very rational transition. I basically
Mhm.
just quit the surgery residency that I was in.
Yeah.
I moved back to LA. I got my license. And so I worked as an urgent care doctor for about a year or two. That was like my side hustle to make money while I
Yeah.
was trying to like break into the tech world.
Nice. Nice. And what was your parents' reaction to all that?
My dad was more supportive initially. He basically he has a master's in English and he was in a PhD program for English and he quit. And so he's like, "Well, I've quit before. I've quit a whole bunch of things. It's fine." And my mom was like, "I don't know, couldn't you just like go a little further?" And I'm like, "Mom, you've been telling me to go further for a while." But,
Yeah.
ultimately they actually were my first investors in my first business. And they were very supportive. And the first thing that I did was not actually healthcare tech. It was very weird at the time. I was very involved in online video production,
Okay.
and I got super involved in YouTube in the
Yeah.
very beginning of YouTube. And I ended up having the number one channel on YouTube from 2006 to 2008.
Oh,
And that
wow.
became like a digital studio and then ultimately like an influencer business. And so at
Wow.
the time, this was like,
Yeah.
what the heck is he doing?
Right. That was so unknown back then.
Yeah.
That is cool. And then eventually you got into, so how did you get into the dentistry then?
Yeah, so that company kind of grew. I sold that business in 2012. And then I started a second company. A friend of mine who's a doctor was kind of frustrated with trying to find work at surgery centers. He's an anesthesiologist and he was always
Okay.
looking to pick up extra shifts. So we built ultimately it was a credentialing platform to verify doctors' backgrounds. So that's what got me back into the healthcare side of things. Then I sold that company in 2019. And then my business partner from that business and I, who, we really like working together, and we just felt like there's a lot of opportunity in dental. Broadly in healthcare, it tends to be a little behind other business domains.
Yeah.
Dental, it felt like there's a lot of opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? We started the business as like a network matching patients to dentists. And really the thesis there was trying to find a better way to pay for dental care. That was kind of the original idea.
Okay. Okay. Because I have seen that side of it too. I saw that. Yeah. Whereas from a patient, you can go in, you can request an estimate, you can get connected, if there's a doc in the area too. And I think that's so, yeah. So, and then now it's kind of evolved. So, yeah, kind of explain that journey a little bit.
Yeah, so we were in this business of doing, we were functioning almost like a dental group, basically. Like, right, we were doing local online marketing in different markets. We
Yeah.
had this website patients could come to, they could find a dentist in a directory, book with that dentist, see the dentist, and then we were a dental discount plan behind the scenes. And so
Right.
when the patient saw the dentist, they would get a 30 to 50% discount off care, and we would have a transaction fee as they would check out at the front desk.
Okay.
So that model was going pretty well. We were growing it in different markets. And at the same time, we had gotten really into AI technology. We were using some of it behind the scenes for some of our pricing algorithm, for some of our call set. We had a call center for some of our call center analytics. And we had built this almost like a diagnostic price estimator for our website, which is actually still on the site now, where
Yeah.
basically you can go as a patient, you can chat with this AI. It'll effectively diagnose you. We don't call it a diagnosis, but it's about 70 to 80% accurate. And then it will tell you the price and then show you the discounted price at the time with Flossy. So we were doing that, and we also were getting kind of interested in voice technology and trying to see, could we like have virtual call reps that are just AIs? And initially we looked at it in 2022 and the tech wasn't really good enough, or 23. And then last year in the summer, we sort of tried again, and we built basically a proof of concept that was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And we got so excited about that we decided to pivot the business completely into that and our new product, Fiona, which is this AI receptionist for dental practices.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. It is cool to see what these new opportunities bring. And like you said, sometimes it takes so many iterations to feel comfortable releasing that, because you still want that experience to be solid. I think that's got to be one of
Yeah.
the big hesitations for a lot of practice owners is I don't want it to turn into a call center where they've had those nightmarish experiences where nobody can get through. It's like you're talking to someone who doesn't know the business or the practice at all. And so, yeah, it's neat to see that it's coming so far in that direction. That's really awesome. So, just out of curiosity on my end, how were you when you were trying to market for just attract patients to go through that diagnostics? What were you guys doing to attract that? What kind of ads were you running?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure as your audience knows, like marketing to patients is hard, right?
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
like in general, the direct to consumer marketing landscape has become very challenging over the last, call it 5 years, because of the changes that Apple made with the tracking
right,
information, which kind of had a trickle down effect. Plus, a lot of traditional digital channels are very saturated. Google's saturated, emails become saturated, I would say.
yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, our primary channel was Google. The
yeah,
benefit of Google is that it's extremely high intent.
yeah,
You're capturing people really low down on the funnel because they are actively searching for a dentist. They have an issue. Most of those are emergency related. I would say that's the only challenge there, is that sometimes those can be lower value procedures, but that was probably our biggest channel. We did a little bit on Facebook. And then the other thing that we did, which worked really well, but it's logistically hard for an individual practice to do, is direct bidding on phone calls. So
mm,
there's a variety of sources where that are aggregating patient demand, and they're calling those, companies. And you can basically bid on the phone calls the way you would bid on a keyword on Google, and you can
gotcha.
do it by zip code, and you put in a bid amount. And basically, the calls are coming into the third party and instantly being directed to the winning bidder in real time.
Wow.
But you have to be good at the bidding, which we got very good at, and then you have to have a good call center. So we had a call center that could answer those phone calls immediately, and then convert them into bookings. And so that
Yeah.
channel actually was pretty cost effective, but logistically hard to operate.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to just go out and do that for your own one or two
Yeah.
location practice. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, well, cool. Let's get into, yeah, a little bit what we really wanted to talk about too was just how AI can help with a lot of those marketing challenges that we're facing right now. So, describe some of the things that you've seen, and kind of the challenges that a lot of practice owners are facing when it comes to marketing their practice.
Yeah, sure. So I'll talk a little bit maybe about how Fiona works, and then I can talk a bit about like how we've been able to help practices and what we've
Yeah.
sort of seen out there. I guess high level, and again, I'm sure your audience understands this. Like they're like staffing challenges, shortages is like one of the biggest problems in dental. About
Yes.
75% of practices have staffing issues. And we saw this firsthand when we were operating the previous iteration of the business. We actually had a practice in Philadelphia that was our top performing practice in Philly by volume. And their front desk person quit. And we literally had to pull them off the network and send them no volume for 2 months because they couldn't find somebody to replace them.
Oh, geez.
Um, so that was like just one of many reasons as to why we kind of built this product. But and we've seen this across the board. Like, it's hard to hire people, it's hard to retain people, it's hard to get good quality people, et cetera. And so that's kind of an across the board problem in the industry. And then, the second issue is that there are just like use cases currently where the economics don't really make sense to hire people. So, as an example, after hours, very, very few dental practices have after all hour call coverage. And most of those calls are going to voicemail.
Right.
Some of them, if they're like very specific, high volume, like implants or something where the order value is really high, treatment value, it's maybe worth doing offshore 24/7 call coverage, but it's tough to justify the cost usually.
Yeah.
Um, and then during the daytime, because of staffing shortages, a lot of calls go unanswered. So,
Right.
like we found that with the practices we work with, about 30 to 35% of all calls go unanswered and just go to voicemail.
Yeah, that's what I've been seeing
Um,
too. It's a
okay.
big number.
It's a big number. Yeah. Yeah, and voicemail effectively does not convert patients to bookings.
No.
Like,
No.
like if it's an existing patient, they'll probably call back during office hours and they'll probably figure it out. But sometimes they won't. But for a new patient, forget it. Like they're calling the next guy.
Yeah.
Um, and so the stats there are so basically the reason that happens is kind of there's two pieces of that funnel. One is the hang up rate is really bad. So when people hit voicemail, about 70 to 80% of people, they just hang up. They don't even leave a message. If they do leave a message, the industry data we have is that if you don't call them back within an hour, they won't convert to a booking. What I'll say is what we found when we were running a call center, it was for new patients, it was much, 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 much shorter than that. Like we
Yeah.
found like an appreciable drop off in our booking conversion rate after 30 seconds to a minute if we didn't
Wow.
call them back. So we were staffing at a very high call coverage percentage because we wanted to answer every call basically.
Yeah.
So those two numbers together just result in like you're basically not going to get bookings. With Fiona, the primary use case that we see right now, and the way we pitch her at least currently, although some people use her for this first point of contact, she is like a receptionist replacement. Most people use her for after hours daytime overflow coverage as that overflow voicemail replacement. And the numbers are basically inverted with Fiona, right? So with Fiona, we see about a 17 to 18% hang up rate. So almost all the calls are getting, well, they're all getting answered, and almost all the people calling are engaging with her.
Yeah.
And then she's booking patients right on the call because she integrates with the practice management software. She can see availability information. She can interact with the patient like truly in like a back and forth conversation, figure out a time that works for them and book them. And she's booking at about it's about a 50% or so rate. It tends to be about the average receptionist. And we think it should get to like the highest performing, which is about an 80% booking rate in the next few months, I would say.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. That's incredible. So how has that been in terms of well, let me back up. Let's say so from a practice perspective, if they're looking at Fiona, they're looking at doing that for their office. how do they feel comfortable enough to turn that over in terms of is there a lot of training that goes into it? Is there a lot of, back end information that needs to be fed in there so that it is congruent with the messaging inside the office?
Yeah, I would say there's sort of there's really, I would say, four pieces to that. So one is how Fiona works. So, as opposed to old school call answering systems, IVRs, which are these phone trees, Fiona is true, generative AI using these large language models. And our technology is I think, really good. We use four different models on the back end. We have a whole proprietary middleware that basically is determining like the intent of the caller and figuring out the best prompting to use. We have multiple different methods of making her sound natural. So
Yeah.
when you talk to Fiona, she sounds really good. Like I wouldn't say she sounds exactly like a human, but it's pretty close, like including like she's emotive,
Yeah.
she's empathetic. It's pretty amazing. And we see weekly improvements, both from what we're doing and just from the models getting better. And so it's going to be completely human, if not in months, within like a year. Like it's
Wow.
happening very, very fast. So I'd say that's thing number one. The second is she's very customizable practice by practice in the ways that really matter for the practice. So one is, we can customize the greeting. We've done a ton of A/B testing. We've actually found sort of the best structure for a greeting to drive caller engagement, but we can customize it for the practice. Um, we also have this whole FAQ system where basically we can load practice specific knowledge like into Fiona's brain,
Yeah.
basically. Sort of like Neo in the Matrix when he
Yeah.
learns, kung fu, right? So like,
Yeah.
and the way we do that is we actually download the past month of call data from the practice. We scrape their website, we get any info they have they can send to us, and then we use an AI to structure all of that, load it into the
Mm.
database, and have it set up. So like she'll know the answer to like really any question, like, what subway should I take? What exit should I get off
Yeah.
of? How long is this procedure? When is the dentist available? Like anything they want to ask, she knows the answer to. And again, that is not like old school QA. It's very dynamic. She just kind of has that knowledge. Um, the second is the scheduling logic is very customizable. So we work with the practice to look at their prior scheduling rules. We also try to kind of recommend best practices. We almost act like a consultant in a way, and we started working with dental consultants too, who like kind of are both promoting Fiona, but also helping practices optimize how they use our product, but just in generally how they operate.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of say, here's best practices for scheduling, especially given like, what are you trying to achieve? More patients, like what might that be and how can we set that up? And so that's very customizable. Then the other piece is that I would say two things. One, the dentists, typically we give them like templates for an email to let their practice know to the existing patients, hey, we're using this new technology. Here's how it works. Here's how you engage with her. And then we also usually start just on nights and weekends. Most practices will start just nights and weekends. It's very low risk. It's way
Right.
better than voicemail, so it's
Right.
an alternative. And then once they get comfortable and patients are comfortable, they very quickly will, turn on overflow during the day. And then some places, again, like I said, will actually just have her as their first point of contact.
Interesting. That's cool. So I wanted to ask about the scheduling aspect. So is that, let's say a patient calls in and they're curious about actual pricing for treatment. What is Fiona designed to do? If the goal is to get them in to schedule and come in for an appointment, how is that structured? Yeah, from a patient perspective.
Yeah, I mean, the default is that she doesn't talk about pricing. I mean, I would say
Sure.
most dentists we work with don't want to discuss pricing over the phone.
Right.
Because it is hard to tell what is wrong with them, obviously, in a phone call. And even with that AI diagnostic chatbot we built, it's pretty accurate, but it's not 100%. And so you don't want a situation where you quote like a lower price. If you quote too high of a price, that's just not right. They're going to be turned off and go to someone else. If you quote too low of a price and they come in and then it's way more than they thought, then they're upset. And so it's oftentimes kind of a lose-lose. We
Yeah.
found for practices, there are some practices that um, very publicly market their pricing. They're typically lower cost, and they're trying to be like at the insurance rates basically with their retail pricing, especially for like non-restorative procedures, like maybe it's a cleaning or things where like what it's going to be. For
Yeah.
those, like we totally can put all the pricing data in that custom knowledge base, and then she could say, hey, a cleaning's $120 or whatever it
Yeah.
is. So that's totally doable if the practice wants to do. Or if not, she'll just say, oh, I'm sorry, I don't have that information, but I can take a message and pass it along to the practice. And then behind the scenes, we have a dashboard, and the dentist can see every call their office. They can listen to them. They get transcriptions of every call, and so they can easily like call back and give that person that info or tell them when they arrive.
Okay. That's cool. That's cool. And then you mentioned also, so just providing the practice with some templates, whether it's emails, communications, to let patients know, hey, this is what we're doing. So it's clear up front, right? That this is AI technology. It's not trying to, assume that it's a human type thing, right?
No, yeah, and actually, that's something that we A/B tested with those intros. We tried some where she didn't say she was an AI and she just engaged, and then we tried some which we weren't like probably going to do, but we wanted to see how it performed. And then we tried some others where she says that she's an AI, and ultimately, the rough greeting that we found that works well is where she basically says that she's an AI, but she also says like, here's the various tasks that you can do with me, so that
Okay.
she's sort of saying, hey, look, like there are like this is not your standard IVR. Like there's more
Yeah.
that you can do here than just like shout for agent until you
Yeah.
get through to a human, right? Like,
Well, that's what I was kind of worried about too. If you're
right,
announcing right up front, hey, this is AI, then yeah, people might have that assumption because of prior
right.
experiences they've had. And so, yeah, I was curious about that. That's neat that you've tested all that too to see. So that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Are there any other challenges? So I mean, we'll get into how that, our staffing, how big of a challenge that is. But anything from a marketing perspective, any other issues that you're seeing that what this really helps with?
Yeah, I mean, so really right now, the biggest thing that Fiona's helping with from a marketing standpoint, which I think which is a critical part of the funnel, is that post-marketing lead capture.
Yeah.
So when the patient comes to you, typically by phone, you now have 24/7, one-tenth the cost or less of a human being ability, it's actually less than that, to get a patient in the door. And
Yeah.
so that's, I would say, the biggest thing right now. We are working on some other features. So one is texting back and forth with Fiona. So that would be an alternate channel. She already does a little bit of outbound texting to patients, but back and forth text is something that we're doing. We actually have web-based chat with Fiona. We haven't gone live with it yet, but once we have sort of a bigger customer that wants it, we'll do it. So web-based chat as another channel. So you can kind of picture over time, actually pretty rapidly, Fiona will be your full front door, any channel a patient wants to engage, you can engage with Fiona, ask questions, book, reschedule, cancel, et cetera, et cetera. The other piece that we're working on, and this is probably a little farther out, is outbound. And the way that we really think about that is patient retention and follow-up, and
Mhm.
from the perspective of getting treatment plans completed that were prescribed to a patient, and getting patients to come back for preventative care, cleanings, et cetera,
Right.
that will keep them healthy, and also it may discover issues that need to be dealt with. And so, again, in our prior life as the marketplace, because we made money through transaction fees, we were really focused on treatment plan conversion, patient follow-up,
Yeah.
et cetera. And so the way we kind of think about that is, again, from this idea of like an AI agent that does the work for you. So if you
Mhm.
look at the traditional SaaS software that's out there for patient retention, there's a lot of work to use them. I mean, they can be effective, but like it's creating email campaigns, texting campaigns, when should I run them? How should I
Right.
run them? What's the incentives? And most practices aren't marketing experts. Some of the bigger organizations are. But we've even found like mid-sized DSOs, some of them don't really know, to be honest.
Yeah.
They've just kind of grown so fast. And so that product, as we think about it, really is with that outcome in mind. It's all about the AI doing texting automatically, doing emailing automatically, creating campaigns. Yeah, you'll have approvals and oversight, but it's like you hired a marketing engagement or retention expert to go out there and get patients to come back.
Powerful. Yeah, I know, because that gets dropped all the time, like you said. I mean, that
Yeah.
people, they know they should do it, they just don't know how, or they don't. Yeah, they don't have the time to do it. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a big challenge. One question that I had too, as you were talking about some of the capabilities, is it possible to have Fiona, let's say, or is it maybe it's already built in, but let's say someone's just gathering information. Is it possible to capture their email address and then which might trigger some type of follow-up automation that's education based, things like that?
Yeah, that's totally possible. So right now, just naturally, you get the phone number for every patient, obviously, right? Because of caller ID. So that happens automatically. We don't currently like prompt to get the email, but it's funny. We were actually just having a conversation about this because a couple of our practices were asking about it. So it would be very easy for us to add
Yeah.
that in. And I think it's a good idea if done in the right context, right? Because you don't want to create more work for the patient if they're just trying to do a booking. But to your
Yeah.
point, if they're gathering information or if they're a lead that might be lost, then you definitely want to get that email to be able to follow up in multiple channels.
Yeah, because I was thinking of it in terms of, let's say, a higher value treatment campaign could be
Yeah.
veneers, something like that, where it typically takes them a while to figure out, okay, I've got enough information to feel comfortable scheduling an appointment and going in. But I could easily see someone at the front desk, or in this case, Fiona, saying, "Hey, I understand you're just researching right now. Let me send you our guide to understanding veneers. Can I just get your
Yep.
email address?" Something like that.
Yeah, no, it's smart. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. And most of the practices so far have been using Fiona like in more of that inbound, a patient is looking to book, like they're actually already ready to schedule capacity.
Okay.
But we have some practices now and some mid-sized DSOs that do a lot of marketing, and actually some of them are higher value, like implants, veneers, things like that. And for them, it's literally like landing page, marketing campaign, landing page, phone call to Fiona.
Yeah.
And that is a bit more of a understanding, learning, and that's where we've been seeing some of these requests for email capture.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
That's cool. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah, anything where you can remove some of that variability in terms of that's what's the challenge with a lot of team members is that they just don't even, or they don't know how to do it. They don't think to do it, and so I guess that's a good segue into let's talk a little bit about, the team and how how easy it is for them to feel burned out today. I mean, it seems like
yeah,
no matter whether you're trying to find someone or you have a team, but they just, man, their to-do list seems to be never ending. So yeah, talk a little bit about that, Miles.
yeah. I will in one sec, but I want to actually address something that you just
Okay.
were saying at the end there, which is really cool. You mentioned that um, it's the consistency that you get with Fiona,
Yeah.
and I would actually take it even one step further and say, when you take an analog process and make it digital, there's all these crazy and magical things that you can do. So, number one, consistency is huge. Like Fiona is doing things like the same way basically every single time, right?
Yeah.
The LLMs, interestingly, right, they're statistical models, so it is a little different, but like it's not 100% predictable, but it's pretty much the same. Um, and then the other thing we can do is plug different products and services in. So, like, we got a ton of requests for insurance verification.
Yeah.
And so we integrated with an existing insurance verification company with their API. We launched this product in 30 days, like
Wow.
from people asking for it
Yeah.
to we are now live with clinics where now when patients call Fiona, it's an add-on service, but you can add on this insurance verification. She already gets the insurance info from every patient, but she will now take that behind the scenes, run it through the API, verify it, create an entire benefits package that shows up in the dashboard for the dentist for the next day. And that's just one example. You can imagine like bill pay, patient financing. There's a whole host of services that now can be integrated as part of that patient flow, which you just can't even do, frankly, when a human is answering the phone,
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah,
which is
I can
kind of
hear
cool.
dentists out there screaming for that. I mean, just what a huge burden would be lifted for that. Golly.
Yeah. But then in terms of your question about burnout, I mean, yeah, I mean, this is like the issue that, as I was mentioning earlier, like burnout is huge.
Yeah.
I saw this as a doctor, like when I was in training in like 05, 06, right? And that
Yeah.
was like 20 years ago. It's only gotten worse, right?
Oh, so much worse.
When I was the first year where in residency programs they introduced the 80-hour work week,
Oh,
which was a reduction because before that it was like infinite hour work week,
Yeah.
right? Um, and we were in this horrible situation where the management, the residency directors, they had like hardcore penalties if they did not stick to this 80-hour work week. Like you could lose your accreditation as a residency program.
Wow.
And so they were yelling at all the interns, don't come in. If you're at 30 hours max, you have to go home overnight because there's some overnight requirements and you
Yeah.
got to check your hours for the week. Well, and but the residents that you reported to were like, no, you're not leaving. There's no more employees. It's not like we have extra interns. It's the
Yeah.
same number of people. So you're staying and you're going to have to like fudge it on the chart here. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, great.
Oh, man.
Anyway,
Oh,
so it's only gotten worse, right? In
yeah.
dental and in medicine. And, people are doing like 5 jobs. And I think in
Yeah.
particular, the front desk person is that like multi-tool. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes they are like, a dental tech or they have clinical experience, but they like, also are answering phones and helping check
Exactly.
out patients or whatever. And so the team response has been really positive. That was something we were worried about. Like, are people going to feel like this is replacing their job or something? But I mean, first of all, we haven't seen that. The reality is that there's a million things for people to do in a dentist office,
Right.
and if the phones can be answered better by Fiona, that frees them up to greet patients and help them reschedule in office or answer questions they might have, or all the multitude of things that need to be done in office. So yeah, it's been really positive. And, we've really leaned into this metaphor of Fiona being a person. We call her her.
Yeah.
There's a little, animated character that is Fiona. And the staff talk to about her like she's another employee. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
Fiona got it. Fiona got this. We're
Yeah.
talking to Fiona. It's pretty cool.
That is that is cool. That is cool. When I just think of, when you were mentioning just how it, just answering the phones, that one specific application, and just how in a practice, they come at any time, right? And so it's
Yeah.
interrupting whatever you're doing, and so you'd have to, and as we know, anytime you're interrupted, mistakes increase. I mean, there's just a whole host of studies that show if you can focus on something without being interrupted, you're a lot better off. And so things get started, probably not finished because of, yeah, you're constantly having to answer the phone, which they should. I mean, that's priority. But yeah, if you have an ability to do that and remove that from their shoulders, then that's big time. I also think too, I mean, it's challenging with employment or staffing is because they've got all these options just down the road where it's frankly a fraction of the stress and responsibility for the same amount of pay, I mean, so they're
Yeah.
looking at these two options like, well, I could work in retail or, and it's like I don't have nearly the responsibility, but I get paid the same. So it's just challenging.
100%. Yeah, I mean, dental practices are small businesses, right? And
Yeah.
so, they can't offer all the benefits or even frankly the salaries sometimes as like Target or
Yeah.
Walmart. Like, those companies, they pay pretty decent hourly wages. It's a lot higher than minimum wage. They
Yeah.
offer benefits, they offer growth potential. You can be manager, et cetera, et cetera. And to your point, and it's way less stressful. And so yeah, it's hard. It's very hard.
Yeah. Yeah. So anything that you can provide them with, the advantage in terms of, hey, this is going to make your job so much easier. I think that's got to be a huge attraction for a lot of these practices just to see, because I know initially some of them probably are thinking, well, I don't want you to take my job, but in reality, once they see Fiona in practice, they're probably like, oh man, how did I do this without, without Fiona?
Totally. Yeah. No, that's very much the response. Yeah. People are blown away
Yeah.
at how she handles things.
Yeah. And are there any, I guess I should ask this, but just are any challenges that you're seeing or that practices are seeing integrating Fiona? What are some of the hiccups or, I mean, it seems pretty seamless. I know they started out on times when it makes sense, after hours, very low risk. But it seems pretty straightforward. So I don't know if there would be any.
Yeah. It's pretty straightforward. I mean, the implementation that we do can move pretty fast. Within like a week or two, we can get people up and running if we can get the information that we need from the practice. So I would say the biggest challenge is they're
Yeah.
busy. It's
Yeah.
hard to get their time. And we do need, like, we need to get that call data. We need to, some of it we can do on our own, like scraping the website. We need to integrate with their practice management software. We have the integrations, but there's work that we have to do to integrate to their version of it. So there's a little bit of work to get it up and running. We do actually have kind of a version of Fiona where We don't have to integrate with your PMS. So we're using that in some
Interesting.
instances
Yeah.
where maybe people have like a very ancient PMS that just you can't integrate with,
Yeah.
or where like um, they just want to try it like faster. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge. I mean, there's so much interest in this technology across the board, but dental is the same. Like, and we're seeing tons of inbound interest. We've been going to a lot of conferences and we've been getting tons of demos and deals as a result of that. And so I would say our biggest challenge has just been managing the inbound volume, making sure we're responding to everybody, which we have been, but it's a lot, and
Right.
getting the implementations done in an expedient fashion, et cetera. So that's really what we've been focused on.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, what else is next? I know you hinted at a few things that are in the works, but anything else that you're looking at right now?
Yeah, I mean, so we really think about, we want to build a whole set of these AI agents for dental practices. So, we started with Fiona, the inbound kind of voice agent. We're working on this outbound product that it could be sort of an extension of Fiona or some new character.
Mhm.
Um, we do the insurance verification now. We'll probably do more with insurance and revenue cycle and bill pay and things like that. So yeah, we just want to add more and more and more agents and functionality to offload front and back office tasks and try to automate them as much as possible for dental practices. That way, the staff can focus on the patient care, the in-person things, the things that really deliver value to the patients ultimately.
Oh, yeah, I think of a lot of those responsibilities you just mentioned. If you were to remove those entirely off the staff and they were enabled to then just focus and exclusively on the patient experience when they're there, just how present they are. I mean, that's got to
Yep.
be a game changer for the patient experience.
Yeah, totally. I mean, if you think about it, like, computers are powerful. Technology that we've built, SaaS software and stuff is
Yeah,
amazing. And it's better than when we had paper files, right?
yeah,
However, for a lot of reasons, like you can access things digitally from anywhere, you can do crazy stuff with it when stuff is digital, as I was saying. But we are now doing a lot of non-human work, if you think about it. There's a
yeah,
lot of time spent clicking through emails, updating
yeah,
HubSpot or Salesforce,
yeah,
entering stuff into the PMS, clicking on the calendar, and it's like, that's not really a human task. We're doing that
yeah,
because it's a human interfacing with a computer task. And so I think the more of that kind of stuff that we can automate, the more that we can do human stuff, like being there for other humans and empathizing with them and explaining, like, yes, Fiona can tell you what a root canal is,
yeah,
but can Fiona really tell you what you should do? Because as you know, in dental is a little different than a lot of healthcare, where I mean healthcare has options, but there's a lot of ways to treat different dental problems, right? You can
yeah,
get an extraction, you can get an implant, you can get a crown, like, and it's not always like one is medically better than the other. Like, it is a cost thing, it's an aesthetics thing, it's a lifestyle thing for that patient. And that's not, an AI is not going to make that decision. Like, that's
right.
that's a human to human interaction and an empathetic conversation. And so I think the more that we can relieve our teams to focus on that, I truly believe that we can create a much better experience for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no replacing those human specific tasks, those human specific moments, but you can gain more of those essentially by
Yeah.
delegating or automating some of these other things that don't need to be. And that makes a lot of sense. I mean, like you said, there's so many of those, that minutia that just could easily be delegated or outsourced to an AI. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Miles, thank you so much for joining us today. Any last comments or any thoughts on what things moving forward in the industry that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of touched on it a little bit. I guess I would just say that, like, I'm optimistic. There's been, like, I feel like waves of AI pessimism.
Yeah,
They're going to
sure.
take over the world, to AI optimism. It's going to be like Shangri-La. And I'm probably more middle and optimistic, right? Like, I think that the technology is very powerful and it can do incredible things, but it's also not magic that's going to just
Yeah,
do everything. And like, the work that we do to make the LLMs work in this use case is intense. Like there's a lot behind the scenes to make it really work. And I think that, I'm excited to see what the future looks like with more and more AI automation type technologies freeing us up to be more human. So I think I'm really excited.
Yeah, that is an exciting prospect. And we'll see. I mean, it's coming so quickly. It really is.
Yeah.
It's neat to see yeah, how fast that advances and it just builds on itself. It's incredible, really. We've never seen
Yeah, no,
anything quite like
yeah. Yeah,
that.
me either. I went through the dot-com wave,
Yeah.
first dot-com as a college student, and then Web 2.0 as a business person and running tech companies in that space. And this is like way faster. I haven't experienced anything like it. I
Yeah.
don't know what the equivalent is. It's just nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is. So, Miles, if people want to get in touch with you or they want to learn more about Flossie, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so they can go to flossy.com, FLOSSY.com, or they can follow me on X at M Beckett.
Okay. Yeah, I'll put that in the show notes. Link that up in there too. But awesome. Well, thanks again, Miles. Really appreciate you coming on. We'll have to have you back again sometime soon.
That'd be great. Thanks a lot, Mark. I appreciate it.